Where do things stand, and does it feel like we're approaching a moment where something is potentially going to change?
That's right. It certainly does not feel that way. So mediators are in Tehran. The president, of course, said that he held off on strikes earlier this week because he was really urged by allies, Gulf allies, to do so, and who had told him that there was really, serious negotiations underway, that there was progress being made. It's really unclear whether that is actually happening. We saw comments from the Ayatollah this week, or spoke to Reuters saying that they would not hand over the highly enriched uranium. This is after Trump has been saying for a long time that is a key point. That is something that he wants Iran to hand over that highly enriched uranium. They want to take it out. He even spoke, in some detail to reporters about how they would go in together after the hostilities ended. And so we're just seeing a lot of and as we have been for weeks, just a lot of conflicting messages about where we actually stand, what progress is being made, and really what the other side has agreed to. So right now we're just really in a holding pattern, as we have been for weeks now, frankly. And I think what's different about now is the president said he held off on these strikes. He also said he gave sort of a loose deadline when he spoke to reporters. He said, maybe I'll give them until Friday or Saturday or Sunday or early next week. So we're sort of tracking a kind of loose early next week deadline for Iran to get back to the United States about potentially, a counter offer. But the last couple of counter offers we've seen, Trump has just completely discarded them and said they were non-starters.
And to your point, it doesn't seem like these two parties are any closer on the deal breakers. They haven't moved on the really big things. The other big thing is, of course, that the Strait is still closed, and our commodities columnist Javier Blas has a column out this week talking about there could be a reality that the Strait does not open for quite a while, talking about how the Suez was shut down for years during that conflict, so much so that the boats actually rusted waiting to go through. Is this a reality that you think the White House is willing or ready to face? Are they planning a contingency plan for this, or for the other alternative, which is you now have this possible negotiation with Iran and Oman trying to create a permanent toll system through the Strait if it does open?
Yeah, it's a great question. I asked the president about this a few weeks ago, about whether he would be okay with, and he's been asked several times, but what he told me was that there would absolutely not, that he would not be okay with a kind of toll system or any kind of restrictions, or the Iranians really controlling anything about the Strait. He said basically that the only thing he would accept is it completely opening. But again, when we think about the reality here, it's really unclear whether that is going to be feasible, or even if it does open. I think now the fear is that Iran could just close it at any time, that this is a point of leverage now for them, something that they've realized that they have a lot of control over. I think, the president has said that he will not lift the naval blockade. That's something that Iran needs, or says that they need, in order to open the Strait. He says that under no circumstances will he lift the blockade unless a peace deal is finalized and there's something that is signed and done. So it seems, with everything with this war, I think it's really interesting. The president, I think his top advisors are saying, this is a huge concern for the midterms. Gas prices are so high. This war is very unpopular. But we heard the president this week say, essentially, everyone is telling me that this war is unpopular. He acknowledged that. He said that, people are saying that this war is unpopular, but I think it's actually more popular than it is. And there seems to be sort of a digging in by the president saying, it's this, I think this is important enough to continue. And we're seeing that in a lot of ways, as this drags on, and as gas prices get higher and higher, and there's more anxiety heading into the midterms. The president seems to say this is worth it for him.
Kate, Christina and I were both on the terrace here at Bloomberg yesterday looking to the skies to see if we could see those Ospreys carrying you and the other reporters and President Trump to Rockland County for this event that he did for Mike Lawler, the congressman in upstate New York. You were there for that event. I was wondering before we spoke with you this morning how much Congressman Lawler wanted the president to be there. He said, if the president says he's coming to your district, you have him come to your district. But he is in a tenuous and difficult position here, the congressman, trying to hold on to that seat, which is heavily contested. What did you make of the comments from the president last night and the kind of welcome and reception that he got there in Rockland County?
Yeah, it was interesting because so Kamala Harris won that district. Lawler is facing a really tough reelection fight. He's a very vulnerable House Republican. I think, what we saw, what I felt like I saw from the president yesterday was him sort of trying to test out his midterm messaging, trying to really focus on the things that his advisors and allies have asked him to focus on, which is really domestic issues, the economy. He talked about salt. There was a lot of, it seemed like we heard sort of a preview of what we're going to hear a lot of from the president as we head into the midterms, as he starts traveling more and getting out onto the road. I think the president also, frankly, just, I covered his 2024 campaign and ended up going to more than 200 rallies, and it was, I think he does enjoy being out on the road and giving these speeches. And I'll also note that it was interesting, and perhaps it was just New York, but there were several protesters at different points in the speech who were escorted out. I don't remember the last time that I saw that many protesters at different times being escorted out. But in terms of the president's speech, he really tried to focus on the domestic issues and less on Iran, which is something that I think a lot of the people who are in his base really want him to be focusing on at this moment.